first two nephrotic syndromes, membranous nephropathy and minimal change disease. The membranous nephropathy is also called as membranous glomerulonephritis. First, let's see about the membranous nephropathy, also known as membranous glomerulonephritis. It is the second most common nephrotic syndrome in adults. The membranous nephropathy is characterized by diffuse thickening of glomerular capillary wall due to immunoglobulin deposits along the subepithelial side of the glomerular basement membrane. So in this case, the immunoglobulin deposits are found along the subepithelial side. 75% cases of the membranous nephropathy are primary. The remaining 25% are secondary causes. So the secondary causes include drugs like penicillamine, captopril and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, malignancies like colon carcinoma, lung carcinoma and melanoma, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, infections like chronic hepatitis B virus infection, hepatitis C virus infection, malaria and schistosomiasis, and other autoimmune diseases like thyroiditis. Let's see about the pathogenesis of membranous nephropathy. So there can be two antigens, exogenous or endogenous antigens. Exogenous are the antigens which are coming from outside. Endogenous antigens are within the body. The endogenous antigens can further be either renal or non-renal. For example, the membranous glomerulonephritis due to SLE is associated with deposition of complexes made up of self-nuclear protein and autoantibodies. Primary membranous nephropathy can be due to autoimmune disease linked to certain HLA alleles like HLA-DQA1. So one of the causes of primary membranous nephropathy can be autoimmune disease linked to certain HLA alleles like HLA-DQA1. Immunoglobulin G4 is the principal immunoglobulin deposited in cases of primary membranous glomerulonephritis. So the principal immunoglobulin deposited in the subepithelial region is immunoglobulin G4. Next is morphology. Under light microscopy, there is uniform diffuse thickening of the glomerular capillary wall. Next is electron microscope. Under electron microscope, there is subepithelial immune complex deposition. So the immune complex deposition occurs in a spike-like pattern. This spike pattern is best seen by silver stains. So the subepithelial deposition occurs in a spike-like pattern, and also there is effacement of food processes of podocytes. Third is under immunofluorescence microscopy. Under immunofluorescence, granular deposits can be seen containing both immunoglobulin as well as complement deposition. So these are the findings under light microscope, electron microscope and immunofluorescence. Next is clinical features. Clinical features of membranous glomerulonephritis. Most commonly, it is insidious in onset. In 15% of cases, it can be due to non-nephrotic proteinuria. It is accompanied with hematuria and mild hypertension in 15 to 35% of cases. There is non-selective proteinuria and it does not respond well to steroid therapy. So membranous nephropathy does not respond well to steroid therapy. More than 60% of the cases have persistent proteinuria even after treatment. 10% of cases die or progress to renal failure within 10 years. More than 40% of the cases end up in severe chronic kidney disease or end-stage renal disease, and recurrence is seen in up to 40% of the patients. So this is about membranous nephropathy, also called as membranous glomerulonephritis. The next nephrotic syndrome is minimal change disease. As the name suggests, there is only minimal change present in the glomerulus. It is the most common nephrotic syndrome in children of age group 2 to 6 years. This is characterized by diffuse effacement of food processes of podocytes. Podocytes are nothing but visceral epithelial cells. But this diffuse effacement is detectable only by electron microscopy. The glomeruli appear virtually normal by light microscopy. So light microscopy appears to be normal. Only in the electron microscopy, the diffuse effacement of food process of podocytes are visualized. Coming to the etiology and pathogenesis of minimal change disease, it has an immunological basis. The points supporting it are: first, it has clinical association with respiratory infections and prophylactic immunization. Second is, it shows good response to corticosteroid or immunosuppressant therapy. Third is, it is associated with other atopic disorders, that is allergic disorders like eczema and rhinitis. And fourth, it has increased prevalence of certain HLA halotypes. So these are in favor of MCD to have an immunological basis of pathogenesis. The minimal change disease involves immune dysfunction, so due to which there is release of factors damaging the visceral epithelial cells, that is podocytes, leading to proteinuria. But the proteinuria in minimal change disease is extremely selective. Only albumin is excreted, not any other protein. This proteinuria occurs due to loss of negative charge. Morphology. First is light microscopy. Light microscopy, the glomeruli appear to be normal. Second is electron microscopy. In electron microscopy, there is no electron dense deposition. The principal lesion is there is uniform diffuse effacement of the food processes of podocytes. This diffuse effacement of food process of podocytes are also seen in membranous glomerulonephritis and also in diabetic nephropathy. So there is no electron dense deposition in case of minimal change disease. The visceral epithelial cells damaged are completely reversible after corticosteroid therapy. This means that the minimal change disease responds very well to the corticosteroid therapy. The cells of the proximal convoluted tubule are laden with lipid and protein. This reflects that there is tubular reabsorption of lipoproteins passing through the diseased glomeruli. This phenomenon is called as lipoid nephrosis, which is characteristically seen in minimal change disease. Next finding is immunofluorescence microscopy. In immunofluorescence, there is no immunoglobulin or complement deposition. Coming to the clinical features of minimal change disease. There is massive proteinuria, but the proteinuria is highly selective. Only albumin is excreted, not any other protein. There is no hypertension and no hematuria. The patients with minimal change disease respond very well to the steroids. But proteinuria may recur. Some patients may become steroid dependent or steroid resistant. But the patients have excellent long-term prognosis. Note: the minimal change disease in adults can be associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So this is an important thing to be noted. It is more common in children, but in adults it can be associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma. The secondary minimal change disease may also follow treatment with non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. This is about minimal change disease. These are the first two nephrotic syndromes. We'll see about the other two nephrotic syndromes in our next video. Thank you.